Joining us now is Ayako Fujita, Chief Japan Economist at J.P. Morgan Securities Japan. Great to have you with us. So you don't expect any change this time either?
No, actually, I don't expect any rate hike this time. But no, of course, actually, the information communication up to mid-April from BOJ was actually quite hawkish. And BOJ was about to hike, but with elevated uncertainty around the Middle East, actually BOJ may find it difficult to deliver rate hike this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible, that turnaround when it came to even markets pricing right now, less than 10% chance from like more than 70 just a few weeks ago. So what will you be watching then for indications of when they will actually hike?
I think actually, the BOJ, it's just a matter of timing. Actually, BOJ was, is currently just waiting for a situation to a little bit stabilize actually from here. So I think the next target for BOJ is clearly in June rather than July, because, it's really actually, the kind of likely decision actually in this today to remain on hold is actually primarily driven by just uncertainty related to Middle East.
The problem, though, is do we see a repeat of 2024 April, right, when they held, Governor Ueda said some things in the presser that sounded perhaps dovish for the markets? Any risk of the yen just plunging from here?
That's possible. Actually, clearly, actually, Governor Ueda may face a very big challenge. Actually, of course, actually, he will try to, sounds quite hawkish, but at the same time, actually, he cannot commit June rate hike, right? Because, he himself doesn't know what is going to happen from here on the situation in Middle East. So I think actually he will try to reiterate that actually inflation expectation is keeping rising, but and also actually economic conditions support actually BOJ's rate hike, but that question is whether or not that itself is actually quite enough for actually confirm that provide some market confidence.
Right. So I asked Finance Minister Katayama last week, what happens and if you see the yen again take a hit by no movement from the BOJ, and the finance minister was very firm that they have all options available, especially insisting that they're in close cooperation with the U.S. Take a listen to what she said.
Yeah, I think actually,
yeah, everything is secret for between two. But I can just say that we are in a better cooperation. That is very true. Actually, he is coming to Japan before he went to China. He is going to China. He come here.
What does he want to talk about?
We're going to have a talk.
About
and our deputies are in close contact day and night, 24 hours, and including any kind of board action.
So Finance Minister Katayama talking about 24/7 communications with the United States, that they have all options on the table. And yet I do wonder how much of the weakness that we're seeing in the yen is just about the yen, about the Bank of Japan, about rate differentials, and how much it really is about safe haven demand, oil prices spiking, U.S. economic data also being pretty strong.
Yeah, I think actually, of course, there are some U.S. factors, but actually, yen weakness was not observed only against the U.S. dollar. Because if you look at actually euro yen, actually against the other currency, actually yen itself is quite weak. So which means actually, I think actually, the big factor for yen weakness was actually primarily driven by BOJ rather than actually global factors, I would say.
Does that mean that if we see United States authorities sort of, again, perhaps another rate check or helping communicate to the markets, that could actually flush a lot of the speculators out?
That's possible, but actually, all this kind of actually U.S. action may probably differ actually, kind of timing of the yen weakness. But actually, all those kind of rate check, all those things cannot actually change the overall trend over the medium term. So if actually, Japan side, actually, if Japan actually, really wanted to contain yen weakness, I think actually, the kind of monetary policy action is really needed actually over the medium to long term. Sure.
Especially at a time when we continue to see oil prices rising, we continue to see the inflationary pressures. What are the real risks for the economy? I just broke jobless rate. Seems to be pretty stable. Wages are continuing to rise. What are the risks to the virtuous cycle that Japan wants to see?
From energy inflation side, actually, on Japan, actually, those kind of pressure has been broadly actually mitigated by government subsidy because gasoline price has already capped by government subsidy. So we don't see actually meaningful negative impact from oil price shocks so far. So only concern actually as of now is very much actually related to supply chain actually bottleneck. Actually, of course, actually we are seeing a lot of actually announcement from firms to raise prices to reflect like higher prices of oil-related products. So those could be the potential risk, but I don't see much risk on the consumption side because wages rising and energy inflation has been contained. So there are no reason for us to worry about domestic consumption side.
Do we have to worry about the fiscal health of the economy when you have energy subsidies in play? You don't know how long they could go for and perhaps even cause another bout of volatility in JGBs as we saw back in January?
Yeah, the biggest concern is actually JGB front. Actually, of course, actually currency pressure may be contained by potentially actually intervention by actually Ministry of Finance. But if actually the government try to contain currency pressure, all this pressure will probably potentially go to JGB side, back end of the curve. And of course, actually, inflation pressure is coming. Even the energy price has been contained, but yet actually we are start seeing a lot of price and actually increase announcement, right? So if that happens, I think actually pressure will potentially come to the JGB side, and also actually the government is currently actually providing energy subsidy and potentially more to come because we haven't seen an electricity price hike actually at this point, but in coming months, actually we will start actually seeing higher electricity price. And the question is whether or not the government will just overlook those kind of pressure. So that's the biggest question actually for a few months.
Political calculation, right?
Yeah.
Ayako Fujita, always great to get your insights. Thank you. She's the chief Japan economist at J.P. Morgan Securities Japan. We have more ahead for you on the Asia Trade. This is Bloomberg.